Today on Factorio, we're going to be learning to turn this into this. Hello and welcome back to the Factory Automation Nation. Here in the Industrial Revolution, we've got a side project for today before we get on with the main project. And we're going to be going ahead and cleaning things up a little bit. I've been looking at some of the builds that I did in the past, and for various reasons, I think that they've been a little suboptimal, and I'd love to fine-tune them a bit, tinker around with a way of making them just a little less sloppy, a little bit less spaghetti. The main reason I would say that this happened the way it did was because we were running on steam power for the first half of it and gradually phasing that out, and it gets janky. And also just building on the two sides of the minibus, I don't really think that was optimal either. So we're going to take another stab at it. I'm going to take a look at the buildings that I'm lacking the most, and I'm going to try to make a similar scaled factory to just redesign the process. Not redo what we've already done, but build on it for the things that are lacking. You'll see here the mining drills, the furnaces, they're not getting the materials they need, and it's very difficult to add more pieces to expand that. Like you can see, I made a little large iron frame stuff off screen, but it's really, really messy to build in this space because it wasn't really designed for it. It was designed for a very specific throughput in mind right here. And we have that. That's great, but we want more. We want to build out the mining drills, the furnaces, and also the mixers are being deprioritized compared to crushers and assemblers as well. We're doing great on assemblers, small and large. They go all the way up the chain. They're very heavily prioritized, but we need to break it down a little bit more intelligently. So I've got a factory plan in place. Let's go over it real quick. We're going to be doing electric furnaces. Looking ahead, we need a lot of furnaces to smelt all our steel, to smelt all the different materials that we're going to be bringing in from new mining patches very soon. So I want to make sure that we're getting plenty of that. And then half the large iron frames will be going to these, and then the other half will be split between the electric mining drills and the electric mixers, which should supplement what I have going on nicely and still be pretty similar in scope to what we had here. And that way we can kind of have a fair comparison of, good practices, good processes. So right off the bat, we're going to go ahead and start pushing to the east. We're going to be building on this side of the road right here. And one thing I'm noticing is that we don't need tin for any of this. So we'll just keep that in mind. We're not bringing tin over whatsoever. Also not currently using this line either, it looks like. So no big deal there. We will be using plenty of iron, though, to the point that I actually want to prioritize the outputs here on the iron side, if I can find it. There we are. And make sure that we're getting plenty of iron this way to start jump-starting our new stuff. Now you'll notice we have the red belts now, which I'm very happy about. Allows us to definitely take it to the next level in terms of overall how we want to expand. Now, if you look at the factory plan's raw ingredients, we're going to be needing to bring in iron, copper, and glass. If we switch over, add in our to-do list and our red transport belts, you're going to see that it's pretty good on belt capacity. Nothing over 0.5, which is exactly what you want to see. Everything is going to be taking up half a belt at minimum, just because of how the process works. But yeah, as long as nothing's over 0.5, you're going to be fine. And I think iron ingots is the only thing that goes over 0.5. So as long as we have a good supply of that, I think we're feeling pretty good. Of course, you have to keep in mind these did come from yellow. So basically this full yellow belts is actually one red belt, but it still works out the way we need it. So yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll curve things up here. We'll just send this along and see what we can do with it. I think we can do the same here. And then just bring the copper underneath. So a few advantages we have now is we're starting with electricity from the beginning, and we have the red transport belts, which have underground belts that go a bit further. So we're pretty happy about that in general. Go ahead and make sure my steam tank, my heavy roller, is close, because that is going to be a great asset for building out at a larger scale. And apparently we need a little landfill love over here too. So we'll go ahead and let those bots do their thing while we start building up the plan. So yeah, we are going to be going ahead and bringing up the copper I guess we want to be keeping in mind that this could be a bus in the future, and we might want to be putting ingredients onto it, which means we want to be doing something more like this. And that should be fine. Going right in between there. We'll do the same for this. So it means that we are kind of having some dead space here, potentially, but that's not that big of a deal to me, because, like I said, if I want to inject ingredients onto the line, I could start here, I could inject them from the north here. I just want those options open, so we'll keep that going. And then we're basically ready to start things off. So the first things first, we'll kind of organize this. I think I have already, actually. Cool. So our end products are going to be up here, furnace, mixer, mining drill. I guess we can swap that for slightly more. I mean, they'll have equal priority on the ingredients, so it doesn't matter too much. But what you're going to see here is we're going to be turning like we did for the first factory, starting off with the computer component. That's going to be almost exclusively copper and glass. So that'll take care of almost all of our copper needs, and it will take care of all of our glass needs. So let's go ahead and start with the 2 assemblers for each of these, the copper wire and the copper foil. And we can go ahead and just, I guess, run it north. There's a few ways we could go with it, but I think this is a good place to start. As good as any anyways. And we'll just get that going here. Of course, we'll need the electricity to work here, and that means we're going to need to connect with a little bit of a electric pole, make sure it's out of the road. Looks like that we have enough space here, and we can then just connect the line to wherever, really. So go ahead, copper wire, shouldn't matter which one's which, and the copper foil. Then we're going to be putting those on the same line together. So we're just going to have like basically a copper line for both types of materials. All right, get this guy out of the way. So what's next? We've got those taken care of, nice and easy. Next is going to be I guess by necessity, we have to do this one first. So it's going to be the thermionic tube, glass, and the 2 copper components that we just put together. So now we're going to go ahead and send iron up the chain and bring glass in on an underground belt, most likely. Yeah, we can kind of, since copper is actually ending at this point, we can go ahead and just slide it in here. But the goal is to put 7 or 5 in between. Yeah, 5, because there's 3 for the assembler, and then there's the inserter on either side. We'll have to see if it needs 2 inserters or 1, but either way, what we can do is go ahead and do this and put the glass on half of it so that we can then have an inserter going out, and that will make it look nice and keep it moving the direction we want it to go. So this is going to be thermionic tubes, if we can find that, and we're going to need 2 of those here. So go ahead and we'll just put all these pieces together, since that's going to help for the electric pole allocation, and just do another copy of this right here, and electricity will flow. We'll all be happy. Well, not necessarily, because we do need it to go back out on the line as well. So let's go ahead, and I usually try to put the output first, if I can. And then, yeah, we need to put poles on either side. The wiring is still going to be a little weird, because these small iron poles tend to get in the way. You're going to have to inevitably put out a bunch of them. Next up on the list, now that we've checked that off, is going to be going over to basic circuits. What we're going to do now is try to get a basic circuit production here. It requires just the copper foil, the thermionic tube, and the glass, which is what we're putting on right here. So we're good there. The trick, though, is that we're going to want our next part to also, if we plan ahead a little bit, thinking ahead is a key part of making sure that things get clean. If you just kind of throw things out there, even if you're just doing step by step like this, if you're not looking ahead a little bit to what, later on you're going to need or where you're going to need it, then you're going to be pretty suboptimal in your plans. So here we're looking ahead. We know we want, right now we have thermionic and glass on the same line, but eventually we're going to want thermionic and basic circuits. So one way that we could circumvent that, and there's a lot of ways you can approach it, but the cleanest way I can think of at the moment is to do a double long-headed inserter. So if we are able to pull from here and here, we can actually split them off when they reach the splitter, and have the thermionics go, I guess, on the bottom side of it, presumably. So let's try right side for thermionics. Clear the line there. And now you can see that, oh, okay, so we're on the wrong side of the belt with that is the only issue. Technically I could do this. And that should work. Okay, we'll try that. See how that goes for us. But yeah, the goal is to then be able to put the piece there. I think this should work fine too. If we need it, we'll use it. But for right now, just go ahead and stretch this out as far as we can this way. Alrighty, so we were making electric circuits. Everything seems fine. This could go a little bit faster. Let's go ahead and put 2 here for each of these, so they're pulling more copper faster. And yeah, it's exactly as you want it now, because we're going to need the basic computer to have boom, 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 these 3 pieces. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then we just want to make the basic computer. This is going to be a little bit more complicated because we need one ingredient that we just don't have right now. And that's going to be the small iron frames, I believe. Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and hold off on that for the moment. That'll be our next project, is to get small iron frames down here. But at the end of the day, we don't have to have it like outright. And so we'll figure out exactly how we want to route these computers in here in a minute, most likely through this. Something like this would be great. But we got the key parts that we needed, and that's what's important. So we're done with the glass. The copper ingots we're done with. However, we're going to notice that we're not using all of the copper wire that's allocated here. We have 144, but about 100 of it is still going to be going up to the north. So we're going to have to reroute a little bit of that, which shouldn't be too difficult. We'll go ahead and just do a little filter splitter here. And put it on the right side. And off we go. I don't know if that's enough. I don't think it is, but we can always just go right under. It's not a big deal. I'm trying to think of a way it actually could just take the place of the copper ingots, but I think it has to wrap around to do that, or at least that's the way I'm seeing right now. So no big deal. The glass is gone as part of this mini bus, so we have space here, and we can definitely use it. So that's looking good. We'll have the computer parts joining in here soon enough as well. But let's just have like these 2 be the raw materials. And now we're going to be using the iron ingots a lot, I believe. That's going to be almost exclusively what we're working with. So yeah, we got one of these, and we're going into this stuff. Now we can say rods and rivets, plates and gears, and then get into this stuff. Yeah, this seems all pretty good. I might push the pistons up a little bit, but other than that, I think this all makes sense. We'll probably want these small frames a little bit earlier in the chain, because we just need plates and rivets for this, so I can go right after the gears, I would say. Actually, the same materials that we would need for reinforced, so we'll put those right next to each other. Happy with that. Beams can come shortly thereafter with only a small addition of the iron ingots, and that would leave pistons to be right before the motors. All makes sense. It all makes sense. So yeah, let's go ahead. Our next project then is going to be to do 11 iron plates and 2 iron rods, and those can all come out on the same line right here as we bring it across, no problem. So we're going to use a lot of small assembly machines right here. We actually need to make little gaps here. You do 2 for the first group, 4, and then 2. And so the reason for that is the electric pole grid is very small, and you have to work around that. So we need, 11, I think I said? So, boom. Get out of here, boys. We'll use you later, I'm sure. But for right now, a lot of plates coming in, and we're happy about that. Let's go ahead and insert them as well. And fix the electric issue just with one of those. Great. So that's all looking really good. We're going to put all that together. Now, one thing to note is that we've got iron gears coming in as well. We've got one iron gear maker, and when you look at the recipes for this stuff, it's a 1-to-1 ratio of plates to gears. So you can just have a small assembler feeding right into another small assembler, and it's a similar situation with rods and rivets. It's basically a 2-to-2 ratio. Iron rods are made 2 per second, and this is 2 per second at half second for each. All right. So we're going to go ahead and make this guy the iron gear guy. I guess since we're just sending it along, maybe we might as well just do it over here. Try it that way. I think that'll save a few belts. Not a big deal, though. And then now we're going to go ahead and check off these two and look at the rods and rivets. 2 for each. Shouldn't be too much of a problem. We can go ahead and send those over here. These will be rods. Same materials going in. Can then, in theory, have the inserters going maybe this way and be put into, because if we curl this up, we're able to use this space pretty well. We're actually able to then turn this into rivets on this side. So other way. Looking pretty good there. I'm liking this. And you see already how much cleaner we're looking. Just because we didn't start off with like the steam line, like the steam inserters and orient around the bus in a weird way, and we kind of have a plan going forward. Like it's looking better from my perspective. So I definitely feel better about this. We'll have to figure out where the plates are going. I guess they're going to have to join the rivets at some point, so we might as well make that happen here. So if we look at it, if we've got these now ready to go, where do they need to go? Well, plates and rivets is the big thing. That's going in the next 3 pieces. Small iron frames, reinforced iron plates, and iron beams. What we could do is make a small iron frame maker right here, because we don't need the small iron frames for anything else, I believe, right? 8 here, and all 8 are being consumed right here. Yeah, so that's good. We can go ahead and just make a small iron frame maker right over here as the only thing. And that's pretty nice, actually. Yeah, one of the other iron frames required smalls to make large, but that's not the case here. So we can go ahead and just, bring plates and rivets down to this one, and we are golden. I think the best way to approach that then... Yeah, we need the rods to go back around. And they can go this way for sure. And we'll have an inserter here for this guy. I don't think we're going to need much more electricity over here, so he can have his own special one. And that will give us a couple of lines right here. And then, the plates, I could say we could siphon off half of them to merge over here with these. Likewise, we'll siphon off half of these to merge down to here. And if this was slightly differently placed, it'll be fine. We'll just do this. Cool. And it might take more than that. Yeah, it looks like it's going to take more than that to build these. They take 3 seconds to build. I think we need a little bit more insert action. The one thing is we don't have fast inserters yet, so our throughput is still a bit limited there, but I think this should be fine. Yeah, you're seeing that it's not hitting red at any point, which is what you need. So looking good there, and then we just need to bring up the other rivets, which we'll have to wrap around, but that's okay. Looking good. All right, plates, rivets. Amazing how different it can feel if you just plan it out a bit. All right, now we did bring off the iron ingots. What we really should have been doing, and I'll go ahead and just straight line this to make space for it, but what we really should have been doing is this is a split off. So we need to split this here. I'm going to go ahead and then underground these computers around here. Oops, one up. There we go. And then we're gonna have the iron ingots run to the side here. So there, we have all the materials that we need all together here. We should make some space. If we could push, if I could go back in time and just push all of this to the right 2 spaces, I think that would clean it up nicely. But of course, we can always just do this, right? So with just a moment extra work, we're able to get that distinction. And the reason why I like to do it this way is because I created some blueprints that are really good at working through around these structures, having blocks of 4, in this case the 4 here, then a gap of 2, and the gap here. That's going to allow me to use these escape blueprints, which actually are yellows right now, but it's actually pretty easy to just upgrade those to red, no problem. So I'll do that real quick. Yeah, we want to stick in the red zone because we don't want to have to go back and use a bunch of copper and tin to make the belts. It's so much easier just to use the rubber, now that that is a more sustainable resource for us. I'll have to actually check how much rubber we have left over, but last I checked, these were doing pretty good. I doubled up the red belt production, and yeah, I emptied these recently and they're still filling up pretty readily. So yeah, rubber is now like fully used. And I think we might need to up this production for blue tech because I do believe it requires some rubber. But, you know, we'll get there when we get there. All right, so as I was saying, I like to space it out like this. Now we can use our escape blueprints, and we have to decide what we need next. Well, we talked about the plate rivet stuff. Does seem a little excessive, right? Let me see if there's a better way I can think of to lay this out. Because escape blueprints will still work. It's just the iron ingots will have to... Yeah, that'll be fine. So let's go ahead, axe this. We're going to end up with a bunch of stuff in our inventory. That's going to be okay. But I would say, like, we can actually work around it just with these 4 on the right side, regardless of what happens with the 3 on the left, because we're only pushing it to the... There's a few splitters where we'll have to, like, underground belt this line, or the iron ingot line, but that's fine. So let's go ahead and take a look. If we wanted to go to our next step, it's going to be, we did small iron frames. Now we can look at the reinforced iron plates. Technically speaking, we could build off of this line here if we really wanted to. That gets into kind of the spaghetti territory I'm going to try to avoid. So let's go ahead and just stay methodical, stay intentional, and say, okay, well, they're right here together. Great. It's going to be a 3-4, which, according to how I labeled these escape blueprints, is going to be the one in parentheses here. Because technically this is, if you're looking at it horizontally, this is the bottom. So we flipped it, and then we want it to actually go like this. And that'll work perfectly fine. So yeah, no problem at all with the... that stuff so far. So this will combine together the plates and the rivets and send everything along, is the design of this blueprint here. And that is exactly what we need for our reinforced iron. So how much do we need of that anyways? 2.5, and then the same materials will be in the beams, will be another 2.5. So we're making 5 inserters here, it looks like. Let's go ahead and... or assemblers here. And by that I mean 4. No, 2.5 is what... so it would be 6 total. My bad. Yeah, we're rounding up for each. You can't just add the 2 numbers together because obviously it's different materials. But that's fine. That'll work great. And we'll have to look at quantities again for inserters. If that becomes an issue, we can double up on these, but by default, I'll just keep it as at this. So we're going to start... I guess so that we clean it up and have just the beams or the ingots finished as soon as possible, we'll go ahead and put that first, the beams, and then we'll do the reinforced right after that. So we'll do reinforced iron plate, and let's still double up the inserters, even if they're not the same. Technically, these are 2 different kinds, but that's fine, as long as we're smart about it. Yeah, that should still have the throughput it needs. We'll have to see, though. So it's going to be a bit of a trick. The computers will have to just be shuffled up a little bit here. Maybe just one or two more, just to make sure. But is this the last of the ingots? Now we can, yeah, continue planning ahead, continue looking where your resources need to be. Like, where do you need these ingots? If you don't need them here anymore, you can just end the line. You don't have to split it off at all. So that's going to be the plan here. We're just going to underground belt to the side, wrap it, and bam. Now, if I was also planning out where my inserters are going to put stuff, I would also put this extra belt here so it's all on the inside. That way we can go ahead and redo this electric line by having output inserters. Well, these are output inserters. We need input inserters, that's right. So I'll do input inserters for the beams specifically. And right here. Okay, cool. And that'll work just fine. Great. Now these are, again, different materials, so this will have to curve at a point and separate, split insert the beams, split filter the beams. And we'll go ahead and do that. But pretty easily, we've got the different materials that we need, no problem at all. So I'm pretty happy about that. And then again, if we're doing this kind of busing activity, we're then putting two spaces and sending it up here. It's all about intentionality and forethought. You're not ever going to get it right the first time every time, but you can definitely put in the best effort by just thinking ahead a little bit and considering where these pieces are actually going to be going. So those two are checked off. We're into rod plate combos, which will make the pistons and the motors, and then we're going to need to add in gears and wires. The gears are going into two different places, the wires going into two different places. So the only thing we're actually killing is rods at this point. This will be the last place the rods go, is these two. So once we combine these together. And for that, we'll need another one of my escape blueprints. We'll go ahead with it's going to be 2-3, which will be 2-3 either way. It's like symmetrical. So let's go ahead and see, probably like this. And then I think if we do underground belts there, then we can go ahead and use this one. So clear off these 4 or 8 and then go back to it. Easy. I guess I can just underground belt these, so it doesn't really matter where they go. Nope. Yeah. In that case, go back down one more and then do the underground belt from here. I like that. Perfect. It does get a little cramped, but we know we don't need the space for other stuff, so pretty happy with that. And yeah, speaking of cramped, let's go ahead and just do it right here. So yeah, we got plates and rods ready to go. And they're going to be going into the pistons and the electric motors. Then we need a gear wire combo, which is kind of weird, but works. This is computers still going up. We can send it up one more time. And then these guys are not finished. Neither of these will be. Both of these will be continuing up, but we can go ahead and get a merger of these. So let's go ahead and just do it this way, allowing this one to hang out with this one. Another little splash there. And I don't think this is 5 apart, but we can just do the assembly machine one to the right and it'll be great. Actually, we don't even need it for this first part. So we can go ahead and just go right around. So the first part is actually going to involve pistons. Is it just one piston crafter? Yeah. So pistons here. I presume can just handle 1-to-1. Yeah, we'll go ahead and avoid cramping it too much. Try that one more time. And then these can just go over here. I'm trying to think of quantities. The one thing I just want to make sure of is that I'm not running out of throughput on my inserters if there's like too much stuff coming in. But it is really only, it's every 2 seconds it needs to move 4 material, which is totally capable of. It can do, I think, 3 per second. So I'm fine with actually just doing it the simplest way, which is actually going to be like this. We'll do an insert and then curve it down. Do an insert in, do an insert out, and this will actually be the motor here, and then we'll do pistons here. Nice. Worked out pretty well, actually. So that should do it. A little bit more complicated than some of my previous builds in terms of just trying to maximize efficiency, but yeah, I like the overall flow of it. It's functional. It works really well. So yeah, I'm happy with it. Let's try to keep this moving. Now pistons, last I checked, pistons and motors combine together, right? We can actually combine them right here, which is great because they're going to be both going into the same thing. That's something I remembered when we were over here, is that we were always using the same piston motor line for like 4 different things. So yeah, we can just go ahead and, or maybe even here, just go right across. Perfect. All right, and we'll see where that needs to go in a moment. And that handles another 2. So now we're at the big one. This is the one that we need to make sure is running as much as possible, 43% of the time. Basic computer, iron plate, iron beam, iron rivet. This is where all the pieces really come together. This one is the big bottleneck I had over here, was this thing not running nearly as much as it needed to, just because it wasn't getting... It was getting enough for what I asked when I built the factory plan, but that wasn't enough for what we actually needed. So, yeah, overall, glad to take this approach and expand on this a little bit. And it's, only been 32 minutes. I feel like we've gotten a lot done in this space in a very clean way, which I'm happy about. Alrighty, so large iron frames, computer, plate, beam, rivet. This will be the last usage of the plates, it looks like. The only usage of the beams, and the last uses are rivets. All 4 of these are completely done with after this. So we'll kill off a few lines here. Is that the case? No, we're going to be using... Yeah, that's one thing I don't need to be doing with these escapes, is filtering them off and continuing the line. We don't actually need more of these rods. We can just send them up, no big deal. And we don't need any more... Well, we did need more of the plates, of course, so here they are. Yeah, so plates, rivets. So what we're going to need after that is the motors, the pistons, the gears, the wires, and the reinforced. So we'll make sure that can continue onward. But the beams, the rivets, the plates, and the computers are all going to be discontinued at this point, which is cool. And I think this is the computer line. It's hard to see because it's not really operating at full speed. And that's because of something that I did before we started this episode, which will kind of take some of the magic away of seeing this all in action. But I had to disconnect our copper line. You'll see that we had copper and tin flowing down from the north. But this is the very starting base. And one thing you know about starting bases is their resource nodes are very thin. We're down to our last few drills, and I wanted to preserve as much copper as I could for the bronze frame glass, so I don't have to redo that anytime soon. So the game plan is to go mine out this copper ore, but I wanted this episode to be focused on fixing the spaghetti, and I think that we're accomplishing that pretty well. So we are going to be lacking in computer components, and we're just going to have to, visualize it for now. But as soon as we inject the proper copper ingot supply into our bus, we're going to be seeing this thing light up, and it's going to be perfect. I guess we can go ahead and run some text for now. Again, if we don't have copper flowing into the southern part of the factory right now, I don't think it's going to really be able to do too much, but we've got a lot of red-green sitting there, so we might as well improve a little bit. Research speed, robot count, Can't complain about those. Don't think we're doing modules anytime soon, but if we can, it'd be awesome. Alrighty, as I was saying, we're going to be making taking the copper beam rivets and plates, polishing all those lines off. So this one right here, we'll send the gears on again. Probably not that far, just a little bit. The computers, plates. Yeah, it's just trying to figure out which pieces I want to combine together. I think it makes the most sense just to do it this way. Actually, it comes down to inserter throughput again, which pieces it needs the most. So if we just look at the recipe for large iron frames, it takes 24. We want the plates and the beams to be separate, which we've accomplished here, and that's basically the main thing. I mean, ideally, it's actually the plates and computers, beams and rivets. That works perfect. Okay, cool. So we'll go ahead and do that just to make sure, because I forget which side computers are on. We'll go ahead and do this. And now we've got our materials that we need. So let's go ahead and send this up over here. No, that's right. And send all these components in. So we'll need a distance of 5 above here. So 1, 2, 3. That's the opposite way. So that's 4. We'll need 1 more, and then we'll go across. Great. So this is where we're going to make it. And should be pretty well set up for it. It's going to take a lot of inserters because it's just taking a lot of materials all at once. So to maximize that, I mean, we could actually wrap it around to bring more. So just in case we need to do that, to make sure that we have enough inserter throughput, because it's a lot. Like 24 iron plates every 4 seconds, 12 beams every 12 seconds, or every 4 seconds. It's a lot. So let's go ahead and just wrap this like this, and we'll see if it works for now. Well, we won't because the computers will be missing, but we'll always have the option of using this left side as well, unless we could wrap it around the right side and take the output on the left, which seems fine to me. Yeah, let's go ahead, output left. And 1 more of these. We need the wires as well. A couple more steps and we'll be there. Good, okay. And we could always throw some computers in here if we really wanted to see a little bit of this happening. And it's looking pretty good in terms of continuing. Obviously, it's taking 1 less item off the line, but that shouldn't be that big of a difference. Looks like it's keeping up pretty well. Cool. So we're happy about that. We've got our materials in play. You can check that off. And now we've got to make sure that we're allocating the large iron frames in the proper way so that it's even. The one big issue here is that I daisy chained it, where I said, okay, first the assembler gets to see all the pieces it wants, then the crusher gets to see all the pieces that it wants, then the mixer, and then these two. And so these, basically, by the time it got past the first few of these, there were no materials left to actually feed the buildings that I wanted. And we're going to need a lot of furnaces as we continue smelting, like I mentioned before. So yeah, we'll split it off. We'll make sure it's intentional. Let's say for the next one, we want reinforced wire and large iron frames. Well, that shouldn't be too hard if we remember where we put the reinforced plates, because we kind of left them behind. But that's okay, we have space for them. So they can run alongside here. We have space for the underground belt here. Wasn't how I planned to use that, but that works out fine. And then that will allow me to then route this through here. It still works out pretty cleanly. So, as I was saying, I am looking to reinforce wire frame. I'm trying to think. We want to probably put the frames in the separate one, I believe. Yeah, I think so. So, 1 more push forward for the gears. overall being pretty space efficient. Obviously the vertical's kind of similar, but our horizontal's cleaner as well, which is kind of nice. And we'll push these up as well, just a bit. Yeah, every one of these blocks should be about 7. It should be the 5 in between and then the 2 belts on. Obviously, if you have 4 inputs, then you're going to either need something on the side, or more likely you're going to use a long-headed inserter. That's going to push to 8. But generally speaking, you can make these in blocks of 7, and it shouldn't be too bad. So, for example, here I can just go ahead and... Oh, wait, is this going to be using any of the same material? No, it's going to be using different materials. So we'll just run the line here. It'll be fine. And then this can actually join like this. And then it can go down to here. So for a little bit of symmetry, we can even put this in the same spot. The building in question being the electric furnaces. And at this point, I'm fine with just burning the inserters just to make sure that we have the throughput we need, because we'll have fast inserters soon enough, and that's really when we're going to be not having to worry about that side of things. The last piece is the key one, the large iron frames here. And what we're going to be doing with these is splitting it off. Half of them are going to go on one line. Half of them are going to go right here. And then we'll go ahead and flip this over. Of course, we don't need to put a bunch of large iron frames in, so we're not going to need too many inserters for that. So let's go ahead and do this right here. And then we can do the filter splitter using burn. Actually, we can even do a different way of doing it. We can... put it off to the side. Yeah, we'll think about the output at the end, because we have to figure out where they want to go. Do we want to put it in the box or something like that? So next thing up, we're going to be pulling from a different line of large iron frames. And it's going to be building these... So I have slight preference on the mining drills, so we'll put that right here. But ideally, then we just split it off again, and we're making sure that it's... I think it'll be fine. I think we don't even need to do this, because we can... Really, what we could be doing is having both of them set up to pull from the same line. So instead of doing that, we could even consider a vertical option, if we wanted to. And set it up like this, and then do like one of these. So then they'll both be in the same position, grabbing from that line here. And yeah, we'll do electric mining drills here. Yeah, it depends on which line we want them to share. Do we want them to share the large iron frame line or the motor piston side? They're both using motor pistons. I think that makes the most sense. And then we'll just do a actual splitter for the frames. Can make that work. So, still looking good. Do need to split this off before it goes there, but we can do that here. And then bring in the motors and the pistons up this way. Quite a few motors and pistons, I imagine. Not that many, but enough that we want to double it up. Looks nice. And then the other pieces, let's go ahead and get the mixer on here. The other pieces, we're going to need gear and large arm frame. So if we can go ahead and take the split off pieces here. And both of those will go right into this side. And then a long-handed inserter sending it out the and away. So if I don't want it to be first come, first serve, I need to split it off here. And then we can wrap it around. Trying to think about, we're talking about intentionality. Our lesson to be learned is we really just want to plan this out in a clean way that's very like logical, scalable, and doesn't just have these little winding paths. Inevitably that will happen on a micro scale, but you want to try to avoid it where you can. So what I actually want to do is the first opportunity split is right here. We'll go ahead and do that for these. And then the second opportunity split will be right here. And that can go right here. Then we talk about iron gear wheels merging on, which can happen right here. Now, if I knew which side the large iron frames were on, that would be helpful. Let's see, we're putting it out on the right side. That means when it... Yeah, so it's not going to be able to just do an easy split. Oh, we can just do it like that. And it'll still work out. I believe that should be right. Either way, it shouldn't matter. And curve it. And I think we're good. So, yeah, how many gears do we really need for this? 16 iron gears. We're going to want another inserter for this. And this doesn't have to be a long-handed. It can just be a regular one. Or we can also put it up top, which I think kind of looks nice if we just have them all both inserting up top, their respective pieces. I'm happy with that. And then we just have to give an outlet for this one. Yeah, I was going to put them on here, which is fine too. One less inserter. Well, it's the same, whatever. Let's go ahead. Electric furnaces out on the left side. And there you have it. Cool. Looks clean, looks nice, looks like the way I want it to be. And then do we just put them in the box? I imagine we do, since we just all collect them in the same place and not have to route it back down to the mall. You know, the ideal is we put everything in the mall, but at this point, I've worked in this area quite a bit, and I want to move on. It's definitely... This mod is definitely one where you could spend a lot of time on a tech tier that you don't need to. If you're... Try to keep things moving, you definitely can. And if you're okay with being stationary, then you're gonna... Well, you're gonna use a lot of time doing it. All right, and then mixers and drills. Currently, I'm putting those onto this, the outside of this line, so that'll be pretty easy if I just send it over here. Onto this line, because that's the one that is coming around. And I'm assuming I filter or split it later on. And then the last piece will be those mixers, which I believe I routed on the western side. And so we'll have to send it the long way around most likely, but let's just double check. These are going out here. No, they're going on this side. As you can see here, did not get the cleanest outlet, but that's okay. I don't know what words I'm saying at this point. I'm just trying to focus on how to make this build work cleanly. And pretty happy with this. So. There we go. All right, so the idea is, yes, technically, eventually this with enough ingots, this could be also making the mixers, but the idea is when this factory is in low supply, or is like is operating at full capacity, we know that the mixers are going to be deprioritized. This is to supplement that. And that way, this one will be mostly focusing on the assembling machines, both types, and the crushers. And then this one will be picking up the slack. So I like this a lot. I think this is a great augment of it. I would love to show off a little bit more of it in action, but of course we need to go ahead and grab some copper to make that happen. So game plan for the next episode is we're going to be heading up and getting a drilling operation here. We currently have plenty of electric furnaces and electric mining drills available to make that happen. We will, however, have to figure out electricity, whether we're... Yeah, that's my biggest problem. I really wanted to save off getting any of these long distance nodes until we went to the next electric tier. We're so close to it. Feels like we could just get the 300 blue, but obviously with 0 copper left on our southern base, we need to just figure out how to make it work. And so if that means we're routing a ton of large wooden poles, that's what we're going to do. But hope you guys like this one. I definitely feel more cathartic about it. It's getting to see a more intentional, more thought out build that's parallels the one we did before without all the problems that we ran into. There were no cliffs to worry about. There were no fuel source changes halfway through, all this stuff. It's clean. It's nice. It's beautiful. So hope you guys enjoyed that as well. But yeah, we'll wrap things up here. We're going to have a nice, clean, continuous supply of electric furnaces for our future mining operations. Because even if we have enough for right now, like I said, I crafted about 150, mostly by hand, we are going to be digging into a lot more resource fields very soon and smelting a lot of steel. So we're going to need a lot more. So we'll see what happens next episode as we head up to the copper and try to bring that back down. I think we'll be needing some of the stone as well. And yeah, after that, onwards and upwards to the new technologies. Anywho, really appreciate you for tuning in. If you enjoyed the video, of course, you have the option to like, to comment, or to subscribe. Apparently that's what you're just supposed to say at the end of each episode. I don't know. I hope whether you do that or not, you enjoyed. And you have a good one.